Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story is about a girl named Alice who faced harsh words at a grand dinner. But when her secret billionaire boyfriend stepped in, everything changed. What happened next? How did he surprise everyone? Stay with us to find out the unexpected twist that left everyone speechless and transformed Alice's life forever. At a grand, glittering dinner in New York City, 12-year-old Alice sat quietly at the long table. She felt out of place in her simple blue dress among all the fancy people in their expensive clothes. Tonight was a special event her aunt was hosting for very important people. Alice didn't want to come, but her aunt insisted. As the meal began, Alice tried to blend in and eat her food quietly. The guests around her chatted and laughed, but Alice felt invisible. She overheard whispers and saw people pointing at her. Why is she even here? One lady in a sparkly red dress whispered to her friend. She doesn't belong, agreed another man with a shiny watch. Alice's cheeks turned red. She wished she could disappear. She missed her parents, who were away on a trip, and didn't understand why her aunt thought it was a good idea to bring her to this event. Suddenly, a tall man in a sharp suit stood up. His name was James, and he was a friend of Alice's parents. He looked very serious as he glanced around the room. "Excuse me," he said loudly. "I have an important announcement to make." Everyone turned to look at him, curious about what he was going to say. Alice looked up too, feeling a bit hopeful. James smiled warmly at Alice before speaking again. "I'd like to introduce you all to someone very special. This is Alice, my girlfriend." The room went silent. Whispers of shock spread quickly. "His girlfriend? But she's just a kid," someone murmured. James continued unfazed. "Alice is not just any girl. She's incredibly smart and kind. Her parents have been amazing friends to me, and I consider Alice part of my family." James then pulled out a small box from his pocket and handed it to Alice. She opened it to find a beautiful necklace with a diamond pendant. "Alice, I want you to have this as a reminder that you are valued and loved." The guests were stunned. They watched in awe as James, a billionaire with numerous companies and charities, showed so much care and respect for Alice. The whispers of doubt turned into murmurs of admiration. Alice's eyes filled with tears of joy. She felt so much better, knowing that she had someone like James on her side. As Alice admired the beautiful necklace, the guests began to see her in a different light. They realized that she wasn't just a child at the dinner. She was someone important to James. Alice felt her confidence growing, and she smiled at James, feeling grateful for his kind words and the beautiful gift. The dinner continued, but now people were more interested in talking to Alice. They asked her questions about her life, her interests, and her favorite things. Alice was happy to share stories about her school, her friends, and the adventures she had with her parents. James stayed by her side, encouraging her and making sure she felt comfortable. He knew that this experience would help Alice grow and become more confident. He wanted her to know that she was never a burden, but a bright and wonderful person who deserved to be treated with respect. As the evening went on, Alice began to enjoy herself. She laughed at the funny stories people told and listened intently to the interesting conversations. She even made a few new friends among the guests. James could see that Alice was having a good time, and he felt proud of her. He knew that she had the strength and kindness to make a positive impact on everyone she met, and he was determined to help her shine even brighter. Just then, a lady named Mrs. Thompson approached them. She was one of the people who had whispered about Alice earlier. She looked a bit nervous, but she smiled warmly at Alice. "Hello, Alice," she said. "I want to apologize for the way I acted earlier. I was wrong to judge you without knowing you. You are a wonderful young lady, and I'm glad I had the chance to meet you." Alice felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She nodded and smiled back. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," she said. "I appreciate your apology." James put his arm around Alice's shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. He knew that this moment was important for her, and he was happy to see her handling it with grace. The night continued to be filled with laughter, good food, and new friendships. Alice felt like she had finally found her place at the grand dinner, and she knew that with James by her side, she could face any challenge that came her way. Alice found herself in delightful conversations with several guests. She even discovered that some of them shared her love for art and animals. One kind lady named Mrs. Patel told her all about her rescue dog, Sparky, and Alice promised to share pictures of her own pet rabbit, Snowball. During dessert, a group of children, who were also attending the dinner, approached Alice. They had been watching her from a distance and were curious about her. A boy named Max, who was about her age, spoke up first. "Hi, Alice. We saw how Mr. James stood up for you. That was really cool." Alice smiled, feeling more at ease. "Thanks, Max. James is amazing. He's always looking out for me." The other children nodded in agreement. "Do you want to join us for a game outside?" asked a girl named Sophie. "We're playing hide and seek, and it's more fun with more people." Alice hesitated for a moment, then looked at James. He nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead, Alice. Have fun. I'll be here if you need me." With a newfound sense of courage, Alice joined the children outside in the garden. The night was cool and the stars twinkled brightly above them. They ran around, laughing and playing hide and seek among the beautifully lit trees and flower bushes. As they played, Alice felt happier than she had in a long time. She had made new friends and felt accepted for who she was. The words of the guests who had once called her a burden were now just distant echoes. James watched from the window, his heart swelling with pride. He knew that this night was a turning point for Alice. She had faced her fears and come out stronger. After the game, the children gathered around a small fire pit to roast marshmallows. Alice told them about her school and her favorite subjects, and they shared their own stories. It was a magical night, and Alice felt like she belonged. Just then, Mrs. Patel approached the group with a tray of hot cocoa. "Who wants some hot chocolate?" she asked with a smile. The children eagerly reached for the cups, and Alice felt a warm sense of happiness. The children sipped their hot cocoa and roasted marshmallows. The fire crackled and cast a warm glow on their faces. They continued to share stories and laugh, enjoying the magical evening. Alice felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. Max, the boy who had invited her to join the game, spoke up again. "Alice, do you have any fun stories to tell? We love hearing about adventures." Alice thought for a moment and then began to tell them about a camping trip she had gone on with her parents. She described the excitement of setting up the tent, the thrill of hiking through the woods, and the joy of discovering a hidden waterfall. The children listened intently, their eyes wide with wonder. "Wow, that sounds amazing," Sophie exclaimed. "I wish I could go on an adventure like that." Alice smiled, feeling proud of her story. "Maybe one day we can all go on an adventure together," she said. "There's so much to explore and discover out there." As the night grew later, the children began to feel sleepy. Mrs. Patel suggested that they head back inside to say goodnight. Alice thanked her new friends for a wonderful evening and promised to see them again soon. When they returned to the grand dining room, the guests were starting to leave. James was waiting for Alice, and he smiled when he saw her. "Did you have a good time?" he asked. Alice nodded eagerly. "Yes, it was amazing. I made new friends and had so much fun." James patted her on the back. "I'm glad to hear that, Alice. You did great tonight. I'm proud of you." As the guests said their goodbyes and left, James and Alice stayed behind to help tidy up. Alice's aunt thanked James for his kind words and support. "You really made a difference tonight," she said. "Thank you for being there for Alice." James smiled and nodded. "It's my pleasure. Alice is a wonderful girl, and she deserves to know that." With the dinner over and the guests gone, James and Alice walked home together. The city lights twinkled around them, and Alice felt a sense of contentment. She knew that, with James by her side, she could face anything. The next morning, Alice woke up with a big smile on her face. She couldn't wait to tell her parents about the wonderful evening she had. As she got ready for the day, she admired the necklace James had given her. It sparkled in the sunlight, reminding her of the amazing support she had. At breakfast, Alice's aunt joined her. "Good morning, Alice. You were fantastic last night. I'm so proud of you," she said warmly. "Thank you, Aunt," Alice replied, beaming. "I had so much fun and made new friends. And James was amazing." Her aunt nodded. "James is a special person. He cares about you a lot." Just then, Alice's phone buzzed with a message. It was from Max, one of the kids she had met at the dinner. "Hey, Alice, do you want to hang out at the park today?" The message read. Alice's eyes lit up. "Aunt, can I go to the park with Max and the other kids from last night?" she asked eagerly. They walked to a nearby park with a beautiful pond and lots of greenery. In the middle of the park was a small playground with swings, slides, and a sandbox. "This is my favorite place to relax and think," James explained. "I used to come here often when I was a kid. It's a great spot to clear your mind and enjoy nature." Alice felt a sense of peace as she looked around the park. She and James spent the afternoon playing on the swings, talking, and enjoying the beauty of the park. Alice felt a strong bond with James, knowing that he truly cared about her and wanted her to be happy. As the sun began to set, they sat on a bench near the pond. James turned to Alice and said, "Alice, I want you to know that you are capable of great things. Never let anyone make you feel less than you are. Always believe in yourself." Alice nodded, feeling inspired by James's words. "Thank you, James. I promise to always remember that." With the day coming to an end, James and Alice headed back home. Alice felt a sense of contentment and joy. She knew that with James by her side, she could face any challenge and achieve her dreams. Over the next few days, Alice found herself filled with new excitement and determination. She enjoyed spending time with her new friends and exploring the city with James. She started to believe in herself more and more. One sunny afternoon, Alice decided to visit a nearby animal shelter. She loved animals and wanted to see if there was anything she could do to help. When she arrived, she was greeted by a friendly volunteer named Mr. Garcia. "Hi, Alice. How can I help you today?" Mr. Garcia asked with a warm smile. "I love animals, and I was wondering if I could help out here," Alice said eagerly. Mr. Garcia's eyes lit up. "We would love to have you, Alice. We always need help with feeding, playing with the animals, and keeping the shelter clean. Would you like to start today?" Alice nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." Mr. Garcia showed Alice around the shelter, introducing her to the dogs, cats, and other animals in their care. Alice felt a deep sense of compassion and joy as she spent time with the animals, petting them and playing with them. She knew that she wanted to make a difference in their lives. As Alice worked, she made friends with the other volunteers and learned about the different ways they help the animals. She felt inspired by their dedication and kindness. When James came to pick her up, he found Alice happily playing with a group of puppies. "Looks like you've found a new passion, Alice," he said with a smile. Alice beamed. "I love it here, James. The animals are so sweet, and the volunteers are amazing. I want to come back and help as much as I can." James nodded, feeling proud of Alice's compassion and determination. "That's wonderful, Alice. I'm glad you found something that makes you happy. We'll make sure you can come here whenever you want." As they left the shelter, Alice felt a sense of fulfillment and purpose. She knew that she could make a positive impact on the world, just like James did. And with the support of her loved ones, she was ready to take on new challenges and adventures. As the days turned into weeks, Alice continued to visit the animal shelter and spend time with her new friends. She felt a sense of purpose and joy in helping the animals and making a positive impact on their lives. One evening, as Alice and James sat by the fireplace, James looked at her with pride. "Alice, you have grown so much. I'm proud of the person you're becoming." Alice smiled warmly. "Thank you, James. You've taught me so much about kindness, courage, and believing in myself." James nodded. "Remember, Alice, you are never a burden. You are special, loved, and capable of great things. Always hold on to that." Alice felt a deep sense of gratitude and love for James and her parents. She knew that she had a bright future ahead of her, filled with new adventures and opportunities. Years later, Alice looked back on that grand dinner with a smile. It was a turning point in her life, a moment when she realized her worth and potential. She had grown into a confident and compassionate young woman, making a positive impact on the world around her. And through it all, she never forgot the support and love of James, her parents, and her friends. They had helped her become the person she was meant to be, a shining light in the lives of those around her. Thank you for following Alice's journey. If you have any new ideas or stories you'd like to explore, feel free to let me know. Her aunt smiled. "Of course you can, dear. Just make sure to be back by lunchtime." Alice quickly replied to Max's message, saying she would meet them at the park. She grabbed her backpack and headed out the door, feeling excited about the new day. At the park, Alice spotted Max, Sophie, and a few other kids playing near the swings. They waved at her, and she ran over to join them. "Hi, everyone." Alice greeted them cheerfully. "Hi, Alice. We're so glad you could come," Max said. "We were just talking about your camping trip story. It was so cool." Alice felt proud that her story had made an impression on her new friends. "Thanks. I have more stories to share too," she said with a grin. The kids spent the morning playing games, sharing stories, and exploring the park. Alice told them about the time she and her parents went on a boat ride and saw dolphins. The other kids were fascinated and asked her many questions. As they sat under a big tree enjoying a picnic, Sophie spoke up. "Alice, you're really awesome. I'm so glad we met you." Alice blushed and smiled. "I'm glad we met too. You all are amazing friends." Just then, a familiar voice called out to them. It was James walking towards the group with a friendly wave. "Hello, everyone. I thought I'd stop by to see how you're doing." The kids greeted James warmly, and Alice ran over to give him a hug. "James, we're having so much fun," she exclaimed. James smiled. "I'm glad to hear that, Alice. I just wanted to check in and make sure everything is all right. Alice nodded. Everything is perfect. Thank you for everything, James. James patted her on the back. You're welcome, Alice. Remember, you are never a burden. You are special and loved. With that, James said goodbye and headed back to his work, leaving Alice and her friends to continue their fun day at the park. Alice felt happier than ever, knowing that she had wonderful friends and someone like James who believed in her. After a while, the children decided to play a game of soccer. Alice eagerly joined in, and they formed teams. Max and Sophie were on her team, and they played with enthusiasm and teamwork. The game was full of laughter and cheers as they chased the ball across the field. Alice's team won the game, and they celebrated with high fives and cheers. Alice felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. She realized that she was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. As the sun began to set, the children gathered their things and headed home. Alice waved goodbye to her friends, promising to meet them again soon. She felt grateful for the wonderful day and the new friends she had made. When Alice returned home, she found a letter waiting for her. It was from her parents, who were still on their trip. She eagerly opened it and began to read. Dear Alice, we miss you so much and can't wait to see you again. We hope you had a wonderful time at the dinner and made some new friends. Remember, you are never a burden. You are a bright and special girl, and we love you very much. Love, Mom and Dad. Alice felt a warm glow in her heart as she read the letter. She knew that her parents, James, and her new friends believed in her. She was no longer the shy girl who felt out of place at the dinner. She was strong, confident, and ready to face any challenge. With a smile on her face, Alice carefully placed the letter in her drawer and climbed into bed. She knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures and opportunities. And with the support of her loved ones, she was ready to take on the world. The next day, Alice woke up feeling excited. She had enjoyed her time at the park and was looking forward to new adventures. After breakfast, she decided to visit James at his office. She wanted to thank him again for everything he had done for her. James's office was in a tall building in the heart of the city. As Alice walked in, she felt a mix of awe and curiosity. The place was bustling with people, all working hard on different projects. James spotted her from his office and waved her in. Good morning, Alice. James greeted her with a big smile. What brings you here today? Alice smiled back. I wanted to thank you again for everything, James. You made me feel so special last night, and I had an amazing time with my new friends. James nodded. I'm glad to hear that, Alice. You deserve to feel special because you are. How about we go out for lunch and celebrate? Alice's eyes lit up. That sounds great. I'd love to. They decided to visit a nearby restaurant that James loved. It was a cozy place with delicious food and a friendly atmosphere. As they enjoyed their meal, James told Alice about his work and some of the exciting projects he was involved in. Alice listened eagerly, fascinated by all the things James was doing to help people. After lunch, James took Alice to a special place he wanted to show her.